Hey, this is Lindsay Sneller, and I am with the Plant Based Power Couple, and this is my very first vlog. I have been asked countless times why I don't have a blog, or I've been told to start a blog. And I've always kind of just shied away from that because I've never really considered myself a writer. But every time someone asks me why I don't blog, or tells me I should start a blog, I agree that I do feel like I have something really valuable to share. So after being asked yet again, just the other day, why I didn't have a blog or could I start a blog, I decided to do this. And I decided to do it this way because I feel like there's power in hearing my voice with my words. Um, and um, and I'm just excited to share, my passion. I have a passion for fitness and for wellness and for health and nutrition and for being plant-based and living a plant-based lifestyle and showing people, how I do that, just not just for myself, but for my whole family, and how, we weave that in. And I love showing people how simple nutrition can be, and helping people really gain optimal health and living the very best life. And so I don't really know where this is going to go. I don't really know what I'm going to do with this, but I'm excited to share this with you. So I thought for my first one, I would just share my journey to becoming plant-based, and, when it all started and how it began. So I've been plant-based for almost 7 years now. And it all kind of began on accident when my son Cole, who's 8 now, when he was born, we found out shortly after he was born that he literally could not tolerate any dairy at all whatsoever. He couldn't have the tiniest bit. And so I was forced to give it up because I was nursing him. And I literally loved milk and I loved cheese back then. So the thought of giving up dairy, I literally thought life was going to be over. I didn't know what I was going to eat. It made me really sad that I had to do it, but I had to. I didn't have a choice. No, it was for my baby. So I quickly discovered that dairy was in literally everything. And it took me a minute to figure out, what I could eat. And but what I noticed is I felt so much better without dairy in my body. I had, up until that point, always had an inhaler that I had to take when I ran. I was a big runner back then. And I always had to have an inhaler before I went running so I could breathe while I ran. And I realized that I didn't really need to take it after being dairy free for a while. It's like, oh, I don't really need that inhaler when I run anymore. And I felt better while I ran, and my body felt better. I just kind of felt like less inflamed, and I dropped weight. Like, I lost weight really quickly. And maybe part of that had to do with not really knowing what to eat at first, but I did notice that weight kind of came off my body pretty quickly. And my mind was clear, and I felt really good. And at the time, I didn't really attribute it to giving up the dairy. I thought that it was like post-pregnancy hormones, and I was just kind of in this baby bliss, and because I was nursing, and I just kind of attributed it to that. But after a year, when I was done nursing him, when he turned a year, and I slowly kind of dairy crept back into my life, and I noticed that all of those things came back. I kind of felt like I needed my inhaler again. I wasn't breathing well while I was running. My body and mind just didn't feel good. I didn't feel good. The pounds crept crept back on pretty quickly. And, whoopsie. And I realized that the only thing that had changed was the dairy. And it kind of occurred to me that, maybe it's just not really worth it. I knew I could give it up. I'd done it for a whole entire year, maybe it just wasn't really worth it to eat it anymore. And it was about that same time that my husband, Scott, was training to do a pretty intense, crazy 120-mile race through the Rocky Mountains. And he decided that he really wanted to really focus on his nutrition and really kind of be in his best shape ever to do this race. On top of that, he is a type 1 diabetic. So he knew that he kind of had to do that. He kind of had to make sure that his nutrition was really kind of spot on, because you can't be diabetic and having blood sugar crash in the middle of a mountain. He had to really dial it in. So he was doing a lot of research and found some pretty good evidence on eating a plant-based diet and how that could really aid not only in his athletic recovery, but could really, really help in managing his blood sugar levels. So he wanted to try a plant-based diet. On top of that, he wanted to try eating 100% raw too. So I said I'd do it with him. And basically just because I knew that I was going to be the one preparing his food. So I thought, what the heck, I'll do it with you in support. And because if I'm going to prepare all your food, I guess I might as well eat the same food you're eating. So we did. We went from a completely standard American diet. Before that point, we literally had kind of the mindset of, we can eat whatever we want because we worked out. We were athletes. We ran a ton. He was running ultra marathons at the time. I was running marathons. We were weight training. We worked out pretty much every day. And we just thought, we can eat whatever we want because of that. And so we went from a completely standard American diet, processed, we drank a ton of soda, to literally overnight 100% completely raw vegan. And I'm not going to tell you that it was easy, because it was not in the beginning. It was hard. It was hard to transition. It took me relearning new ways of preparing food. And it took, commitment and consistency before we kind of got over that hump to feel really, really good. But I will tell you that it was worth it. And I will tell you that we did feel amazing eventually. And I will tell you that he ran that 120-mile race like it was nothing. I mean, he ran up and down mountains like it was nothing. It didn't even faze him. And found that in his training for doing that, his recovery time was he could go run 20 miles and get up in the next day and run 20 miles again. He just felt amazing. So it was worth it. And that kind of, once we did that, we kind of decided we never wanted to go back. You feel, once you feel how good your body's designed to feel, it made me really aware of how good our bodies could feel. And it made me aware of how my body felt when I was putting things into it. Did it feel good or did it not? And before that, I just never, I just kind of always felt yuck. So it didn't really matter what I put into my body because I always felt yucky anyway. So, I just felt a little more yucky, I guess, with some things. But I really realized how good my body could feel, and I loved how it felt. And so, that was something that we just decided, I just never wanted to look back. We did the raw through his training. And once he was done with that, I kind of decided I didn't want to do that piece of it anymore, because we are living in Michigan and winter came, and I just wanted hot food. You got to eat hot food in the winter in Michigan. So we kind of let go of that. We still eat a good bit of raw food, but I'm not 100% raw anymore. I'm probably 60 or 70% raw, but still 100% plant-based. And just thought maybe share a few tips with you. If if plant-based is something, I get asked questions all the time about, how do I go plant-based? How do you do it? How do you begin? Because I think it can feel really, really overwhelming to people to change, overhaul their whole entire diet. So, of course, how I did it was I completely jumped in and completely changed it like that overnight. Maybe that sounds too overwhelming for you. And if you don't want to do that, fine. I find it funny. Like people will talk, I talk to people about being plant-based all the time because it's a huge passion of mine. But I find it funny that people will say to me, I could go plant-based except for that I love to eat cheese or I love to eat bacon. And it's like they think that if they call themselves plant-based and have a bite of cheese or bacon, that's like some vegan police is going to show up on their doorstep the second they take a bite of it or something. Like there's no like vegan law. There's no plant-based law or rule. I really, any amount of extra plants that you add into your body is only going to benefit not you, but this whole entire world. It benefits the environment so much. So any amount that you can add in is totally fine. So if you feel like, being 100% plant-based is not something that you can do, then fine, just do what you can. Just add more plants in. Don't feel like you have to do everything. If maybe you just eat plant-based until dinner every day, and then you have whatever for dinner, that's totally fine. Maybe you just decide to be plant-based one day a week. Like every little tiny bit that you do is only going to help and benefit you. So just do what you can. So for me in the beginning, I watched a ton of documentaries. And that was really what spurred it for me for really wanting to stick with it. It really amazed me how much I didn't know about how beneficial eating plant-based could be. And it really kind of angered me that I knew very little and that there was very little common knowledge of it. And I guess that's maybe what's spurring me to do this, to really put the word out there and just let people know how beneficial it can be. Because I don't think people know. I think it is still something that, we're just really, really told, the only place we can get protein is from meat. And that's just not true. We don't need meat to have protein. We don't need animal protein. We get protein from where animals get their protein. We can do that. And it really amazed me how many health benefits that you could receive from being plant-based that I just didn't know about until I really started educating myself. And not only that, the environmental impact that it can have to live a plant-based lifestyle and how beneficial it can be to our environment and how, the livestock and dairy industry is really, really, it's ruining our world. And I think so many people just don't know the effect that it's having. So do your research, watch some documentaries. Netflix is a great resource for that. Just to name a few of my favorites, Food Inc., Healthy for Change is a good one, Forks Over Knives, Vegucated, Cowspiracy. There's a bunch of them on there. Just search Netflix. There's a ton on there. Just start watching and educate yourself. The internet can be an awesome resource. Find blogs that you can follow or vlogs. Maybe this can be one that you can follow that, you find beneficial. I hope it is. Pinterest was like my source in the beginning for recipes to, really learning how to prepare my food differently and cook differently. And then after a while, like I got to a point where now I can just create my own. But in the beginning, I was like, just searching Pinterest all the time for new recipes and new ways to prepare food. And that was a great resource for me. You can reach out to me if you have questions. I'm always loving to share my passion for it. So don't hesitate to reach out to me. I think the one thing that a lot of people miss in the beginning when they switch to a plant-based lifestyle, and I think this is just missed no matter what, is supplementation. Really, really do your research on that. Our soils, you guys, they're not what they used to be. They've been overcropped. We haven't allowed them the time to rebuild the minerals back up before we crop again. And that just leads to our foods that we're eating just being deficient in the nutrients because we are cropping at a way too fast of a rate for our soils to keep up with. And on top of that, we are throwing on top of, on top of that, we are throwing all sorts of sides, pesticides, herbicides, fungicides. Side means death in Latin. So we are killing the good minerals and nutrients that are in our soils in order to produce bigger, better, more pleasing looking fruits, vegetables, crops faster. And so because of that, it's just leaving it deficient in nutrients. So I'm not saying that you don't get any nutrition from it. Of course we get nutrition from it. We just don't get as much as we used to. And so it's highly unlikely you're eating enough to get the nutrients that you need. So find a good supplement. I hear so many people will say, well, I tried going plant-based, but I felt like junk. And I'm like, well, did you supplement? No, I just ate food. Well, that's probably why. You probably were deficient. And when our bodies are deficient, we don't feel good. And that's probably why you didn't feel good. So find a reputable source for a really good supplement, and know that a supplement is that. It's a supplement. It doesn't take the place of a well-balanced diet. It just is there to fill in the gaps. And if you need advice on that, please reach out. I'd love to share with you what I use because I have something that's amazing and it's helped me to feel amazing. So, really, really do your research and check into that. And I guess the biggest thing is just start adding in more plants. That's kind of the easiest step to take, is just start adding in more plants, because it's going to leave less room for everything else. The more plants you put in, the more your body's going to crave it, and the less room you're going to have for anything else. So just, maybe just start eating everything on a bed of greens just to get more greens in. Just add more plants. Simple as that. So anyways, I hope those tips are helpful, and follow me along on this journey. Like I said, it's, I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm an athlete, I'm a runner, I'm a CrossFitter, and I'm a nutritionist, I'm a wellness coach, and who knows where this journey is going to go, but I would love it if you would follow along.